So last weekend, I was supposed to be in Nebraska having a nice brunch with my 7 sisters and 3 sisters-in-law, celebrating our mama, Bonnie Crushel, and her 77 years on this earth. Yay. However, a massive snowstorm just totally blew through Nebraska, effectively shutting down our plans. So I woke up this morning just full of deep appreciation and love for my mother. And I hope you don't mind, but I wanted to take this time and space and just share my inspiring mother and her ways with you. And I wanted to start with a quote. This is by Mitch Albom. And I realize when you look at your mother, you are looking at the purest love you will ever know. And you guys, I hope you have a great mother, the kind that's self-sacrificing and kind and fun to be around. And I hope you've enjoyed an intimate relationship with the woman who gave you life. But just in case you didn't have that kind of mother, I just really want to share mine with you today. She will be a great gift to you as she has been to me. My name is Lori Dorneman, and this is the 26th episode of the Parenting Dare podcast. I want to give a really special welcome to any brand new listeners. All right, the top 7 reasons why I love my mother, Bonnie Crushel. Number 1, her openness to life. So I don't know if you caught this, but I have 7 sisters and 3 brothers. There were 11 kids. 7 girls in a row, like 7 girls in a row. And, even though having 11 kids is crazy, amazing, fantastic, I actually know a lot of women who have given birth to 11 or more children. I am Catholic after all. But what makes her openness to life, number 1 in my book, is how she responded to her role as a mother of 11. Mom made it a point to tell me and my siblings, I think she told my siblings, maybe she just told me, but she told all of us that she had always wanted to be a mom, and she'd just smile and say, you made my dreams a reality. Do you know how radically transforming it was to be loved and welcomed in that way? And I just wish every child alive really could hear these words. You literally made my dreams come true. I mean, you guys, think of how our world would change if every child was cherished like that. And so my mom not only loved us like that, she brought that mission of openness to life outside of our home. And I remember going into high school, Wilber-Clatonia High, seeing my mother standing outside of the school passing out flyers with a message about the unborn. And I think she had heard about a girl from our high school that either had an abortion or was thinking about it. Either way, Mom brought the message of the sacredness of life to the students. And I remember watching her thinking, my mom is so powerful. And I was super proud of her witness. Fast forward 33 years or 30 years or more. So my husband and I, 11 years ago, we were contemplating adopting this 4-year-old. And I called my mom about it. I explained the situation to her, and we just talked long and hard about it. And I gave her, time to think and pray about it. And then we talked again. And I just told her point blank, I'm like, I don't think I can handle a 7th child. I just don't think. 6, I was kind of doing okay with 6. I just didn't know if a 7th would just kill me or not. So my mom, she really respects our decisions as adults, and she really just kind of lets us talk it through. Kind of making our own decisions on our own, just guided by, bigger principles. But with this particular situation, she was so adamant. She was like, Lori, you're going to adopt this little girl. And I was kind of taken aback by her fierce conviction. But she was so passionate about it that I just listened to her in a different way. And she told me that I needed to adopt that little girl and it would all work out. We did, and it has. So months later, my mom shared that she had seen, kind of while in contemplative type prayer, 2 little black girls playing together. And she said, maybe you're going to adopt another one. And, she was partially right, because my sister Kelly adopted a little girl who just so happened to be born on Malaysia's birthday. So now we have these 2 little girls, in our family. Mom, you're a prophetess too. Did you know that? But all of this adoption part was because my mom taught me the importance of life. That was reason number 1, her openness to life. Number 2, her sacrificial living. Mom told us baby chickadees that she loved us all the time. Like we always heard that. But her actions put all sorts of exclamation points and hearts all around her words. One time our family was eating supper and we were just all around our massive kitchen table. And it was obvious that either some of the kids had took too much of the main dish or whatever, but there was not going to be enough to go around. And, Mom made sure that all of us kids had food. And then she just declared that she wasn't all that hungry. And I was like, okay. But later on, I saw her frying up some eggs for herself. And I was like, oh, she really was hungry. But she gave that so we would have the food. And she did that kind of thing routinely. She didn't make a big deal of it. She just gave so we would have. And, there are plenty of stories of kids born into large families that have to share this like intense burden of their siblings. They're always helping their mother and they're like, oh, this is like, I'm a free nanny kind of thing. And I'm just telling you, I was not one of those stories. I would say that Mom even made sure that almost went the other way because she did not want the stress of a big family on us. Did we help out? Of course we did. Were we taken advantage of? No, absolutely not. And I think that's kind of forward thinking actually, because yes, she had a large family, but she didn't want us 7 daughters in a row to feel like we had raised a family because, she wanted us to have our own family eventually, not get burned out on, changing diapers and stuff. And I've thought about that a lot because how did she do it? How did she do so much? Because 11 kids, that's lots of laundry, lots of food prep, lots of everything. And basically, you guys, I can just see that through the eyes of an adult that my mom literally carried the load. She stayed up late. She got up early. And I never heard her complain. She would say things like, oh, when I get to heaven, I'm going to read all these magazines that I have stacked up. And she would kind of make comments like that. But she just worked. She did so much more than I ever appreciated. And a part of me would go like, geez, how did she have the strength for that? Well, in my honest opinion, I don't think all of her strength came from herself, which brings me to point number 3. My mama's faith. If God grades on a curve, we are all screwed because my mother's faith in God is like this unbelievable beacon of hope for the hopeless. She has enough faith for all of us. She believes 100% in Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God the Father. She loves Our Lady. She appreciates and enjoys reading about saints and holy priests. I mean, my mama believes. And her vibrant love of God and her love of all that is holy just has this, it resonates within her and it creates this beautiful, kind of like a balance within her. And it's like she's living in this world, but she knows that it's not her true home. And she has never gotten wrapped up in social status or finances. She does get wrapped up in her relationship with God and Jesus. And one time I remember I was probably in high school and we were sweeping the floor and her and I were just talking and we're talking about heaven. And she just firmly said, I am absolutely going to heaven. And I go, well, you don't know yet. You don't know that, Mom. And she said, yes, I do. And I thought about that for a long time. And, as a Catholic, we know that it's our faith. We know that our belief in Jesus saves us, but we also believe that since we have free will, we can turn away from God and choose hell. I mean, that's part of it's part of free will. Mom knew she would never do that. She was in his family, safe and secure, and she did not live scared of hell. And she absolutely lived in anticipation of heaven. And it was like, she lived in the joy of her salvation. She believed with such confident assurance of who she is as a child of Christ. It was evident all the time. So yes, we went to Mass as a family. We prayed the rosary regularly. We did those things, but we also witnessed love in action. So one day someone knocked on our door in the middle of winter and we were all shocked because number one, it was this door-to-door saleswoman. Well, okay. So as a woman, it was crazy. And she was selling these things like door to door, but our door was like a half mile away from the nearest door. And I'm like, what? So Mom took a look at this freezing woman. I mean, and she obviously did not understand like Nebraska winters because she didn't have she was freezing cold. And so my mom went over to the Minton area of our house, and she pulled out, I guess, the mitten bin, and she pulled out a hat, scarf, gloves, and gave them to her. And Mom didn't like mumble or grumble. This woman's crazy. She doesn't, doesn't have sense or whatever. She just gave them to her. And I just looked at that, and I felt like, it was living out of love in a way that words, her actions spoke so much louder to me than anything she had ever said. Fourth reason that I love my mother. Her focus is people, not things. All right, Bonnie Krushel loves people. She loves having lots of people over, and there's always room at her table. So if and when there are kids around, and at her house there were and are always kids around, she'll be the one that says, hey, get out the rummy cube, or who wants to play Scrabble? And there can be this pile of dishes on the counter, but she's not even going to look towards it because she's playing a game. She's with her children or grandchildren. And I thought this kind of this attitude was normal until I was invited to a friend's house. And this friend had a mother whose main interest was her immaculate, plastic clad, I kid you not, her furniture actually had plastic on it, but her immaculate furniture. She was so into her furniture. And when I was in her home, I felt like I was an animal, like I was going to mess up her home at any minute, and like she couldn't trust me. And I'm just telling you, I could not wait to leave that house. And I think she was waiting for me to leave. And it was then that I appreciated my mother's value system of people first and house second. So another story, for many years we lived on School Street in Wilbur, Nebraska, and across the street was this family, the Resnies, and I love them so much. I kind of had a crush on Russ Resnie, but anyway, Barb and Diane Resnie babysat me every so often, and that's how they probably got to know my really kind mother. It was a marvel to witness my mother mothering other mothers' children. She would sit and listen to Barb and Diane whenever they needed to talk, and I didn't know or understand the inner workings of the Resnie family. I still don't. I just noticed that my mom, busy as she was, made herself available literally to our neighbors. It was just so beautiful. And there's another story of really how she focuses on people, not things. I remember distinctly, I called Mom. I was in college, and we were talking, and she mentioned that my baby brother Michael, who's now in his 30s, that means I'm in my 50s. What the heck? But she mentioned that my baby brother Michael was sitting in the middle of the kitchen table, and he had poured a gallon of milk all over himself. And I was like, all right, well, I'll let you go. And she was like, no, he's fine. And I was like, what? She said, think of how much he's learning. How many mothers do you know that would say that? I mean, literally, I would not have said that. I still would not have said that. I can literally count only one person who would say that. So my mom has incredible perspective. She focuses on people first. She delights in people. And I want to be her when I grow up. I mean, seriously. Reason number 5, top 7 reasons that I love my mama. She sees beyond the now. So it is super easy to get into the rhythm of family life. We get up, we eat, we go to school, come home, eat, go to bed. And, you add sports into that. And that's a full life with kids. And that's just a full life. But what Mom did was she made the time to actually form me. So she took me to 4-H. And yes, I made the cookies, perfectly formed cookies. And yes, I learned how to sew. I'm going to tell you a funny little story about sewing. So, oh my gosh, I have so many memories of sewing, but one in particular, I was sewing my senior homecoming dress. It was this blue dress, and it had, the neck was a V neck, and then each of the shoulders kind of went down into a V, and I obviously was not very good at reading directions oh my gosh. So I sewed the arm into the neck hole. So I came upstairs and I said, Mom, I think I did it wrong. So I had both of my hands were in the actual holes. And then I had this big like trunk thing coming out of my head. But those were the years. I tell you, we sewed everything. But all right, beyond sewing, and also my sister Sherry, she took the sewing to the next level. She actually has a doctorate of textile and design. She teaches at K-State. And that's really because of those years that we learned how to sew with Mom. For me, the best part of those years turned out to be speaking publicly. And I hated it, the public speaking part of 4-H. Hated it. I mean, I would moan and whine and complain, and I would just it was like 2 feet in the ground. I do not want to do this, Mom. But Mom would just write my speeches, and she would make me practice them, and then I would have to get in front of people and present them. It was like torture. I would do that over and over and over. But now I actually love public speaking, and I get paid to do it. So I don't think I would enjoy it now without those years of experience. So, Mom, thank you. Thank you for putting up with me through those years. I really value that you looked at the beyond, not just me complaining. So thank you for seeing that. My mom also understood the value of reading, and she knew that if I was reading, something magical was happening in this brain of mine. And she encouraged me to read, and she read herself, and she had time. And, I will just say that books change us. They are a vehicle, and Mom saw beyond the many tasks that could be done, because literally when you have that big a family, your tasks are never done. And she allowed me time to read. I just so appreciate that. We also always ate together as a family. No matter how busy we were, we knew that there would be food on the table in the morning for breakfast. Even if we're like, I don't want to eat breakfast, there was food on the table for breakfast in the morning as well as night. And, making that effort to create a meal and gather us together, I was given more than food. I felt like I truly belonged. Another one example of how she saw beyond the now was chickens. Oh my gosh. So if you have a chicken out in your yard, Lori Dorneman can get it, and I can take it from your yard to your table. I know the steps needed to kill that there chicken and to gut it and pluck it and all that kind of gross stuff. I had a love-hate relationship growing up with those dang chickens. We would butcher about, I think it was 1 million chickens every year. And as I look back on that experience, I actually became grateful that we did such gross work. And because as I stuck my hand inside the cavity of those trillion chickens, you have to scrape the lungs out, and then you pull out all the guts and mush and nasty. I knew that I was going to go to college. College was on my on my things to do. And I don't know that I would have that. I cannot live this kind of life of just factory type work, because there was a lot of people who literally that's what they did. They just did, farmland or whatever all around, where they just did things like gutting chickens. And I was not going to do that. All right, another example of how Mama formed me of seeing beyond the now is one time I brought home a little record with the hit single Afternoon Delight. And it was my favorite song. I'd hear it occasionally on the radio, and I was I was going to buy this record. Well, my mom found out I had purchased it, and she made me take it back to the store. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I wasn't sure why. So I listened to the lyrics super closely. Seems that, sky rockets in flight was not actually about flying rockets. And when Starland sang about working up an appetite, they were not talking about food. And I was like, oh! So returning that record, yes, it made me mad. I'm not going to lie about that. But another part of me was oddly happy that I had a mom with beliefs, and she wasn't afraid to use them. She's like, you're not listening to that crap, Lori. So... And then another story that really shows her seeing beyond the now. I've told the story in a different place, but I think it's worth repeating. I was probably about in the 4th grade, and I wanted to buy a ring for my sister Sherry, but I didn't have the money. So I did the logical thing. I stole the ring from the downtown dime store. After like a week, my conscience would not shut up about it. So I finally confessed to my mom. And what happened really taught me so much, because she handled this with such grace and, some skill. She did not shame me, but she just took me back to the dime store where I returned the ring. It was just like I owned up to it, I apologized, and I made amends for it. And I just feel the relief. It was such a relief, and that just felt so good. And she helped me right a wrong, but she didn't make me feel wrong. And there's a huge difference there. So thanks, Mom. All right, number 6, her competitive ways. So one day I asked my sister Katie, why am I so competitive? Like, I like to win, like love to win at anything and everything. And she laughed and said, did you not ever play a game with Mom? And oh my gosh. So she reminded me of our dear, sweet, saintly mother who never ever let us win a game. Bonnie Kreschel's competitive streak, hidden from the naked eye, was fierce. When I was growing up, she would not let me cheat even things like Candyland or like Chutes and Ladders. And if you've ever played Chutes or Ladders, like you're up at the top row or the second to top row, and there's that huge slide. If I knew that I was going to land on that slide, I would like look at her like, can I like skip over that? And she'd be like, no, you have to go back down. And it was like, dang, like she never let me cheat. And when we played rummy, and we played like a lot of rummy growing up, she would just play hard. She would pick up the whole stack and work the whole stack. And we were all like terrible rummy players. But we kept playing, and eventually the tide turned, and we began to beat Mom. And I'll tell you, that was a glorious experience. Winning at Scrabble took time, way more time. It took more effort and expertise, but sometimes we beat Mom. Occasionally we beat Mom at Scrabble. And, it's like, who knew how sweet that would be? And, as we've matured and grown and, we are parents now, Mom has confided in us that, she goes like, I never let you beat me because I knew there'd be a day when you would earn it and how good that would feel. And so she wanted us to have that understanding that we had capabilities. And I guess the reason why I appreciate this so much is there's something called Zamboni mothers. Is that how you say it, Eric? Zamboni?
Zamboni.
Okay. Sorry. So she was not a Zamboni mother. And what a Zamboni is, this machine on the ice rink. Like if you go to a hockey game, they have this big machine, the Zamboni machine. She was not a Zamboni mother. She did not smooth the ice so it'd be nice and smooth in front of us. She wanted it to get a little rough. And, if it was from just us learning how to play games, so be it. We had to own our own journey. And what I see in my siblings, all 10 of us work really hard and we play really hard and we win. So if you want me to come over to your house and play pitch for fun, I'm going to enjoy that. I'll be gracious and kind, but I'm going to beat you. Sorry, I do have that so badly. Oh my gosh. All right. The 7th reason I love my mother, her ability to release. So if you have a child, you've most likely welcomed your child into the world. You've done the mother sacrifice thing. You've loved well. But can you release your child? Can you let your child actually leave you? So my mother was a rock star at this. And, at first glance, you might think, well, duh, Lori, she wanted to get rid of some of you guys. She had kids to spare or what have you. And yes, there's probably some truth in that. But what I experienced at the hand of my mother in this department was absolutely pure gift. So first example, when my friend Brenda was dying of cancer, I just noticed that many of my friends pulled back from the friendship. And, it wasn't hard to figure out why. The valley of death is not exactly the yellow brick road. I mean, it's just, it's just not fun. And at one point, Mom pulled me aside and she said, I'm worried about you. And she knew that Brenda and I were going to get closer and closer, and that, Brenda's death was slated. It was going to happen. And I just said, Mom, I appreciate that. But, if I was the one dying, would you want my friends to run away, in fear that they're going to get hurt? Or would you want them to come closer and support me? And that's when she got it, and she released me. And it was just such a gift because the whole relationship with Brenda has been such a game changer in my own life. And I would not have been able to experience that if it hadn't been for my mother's ability to let me. And during that same time period, right after that, during that, was applying to be an exchange student in Japan. So I brought it to my mom. I'm like, I'm thinking about, applying for this scholarship. And she was like, yes. She only had positive things to say. So I applied. And over the course of probably about 5 or 6 months, there was interviews and there was all sorts of forms I had to fill out. I learned that I had been awarded the scholarship. And both of my parents were so proud of me. And they were like, we knew you could do it. That's awesome. And I so appreciate their support, because they had to drag me to these different competitions and all that kind of stuff to win it. But what felt the best, like magical, was how my mom let me go with open hands. She did not cling to me. She did not smother me. She did not guilt me over anything. She just kept saying, like, you're going to have so much fun. And what her confident attitude said was like, Lori, I believe in you. And that was a game changer for me personally, like understanding that I could go across the world and do this crazy thing. And Mom, one thing I also want to share with you is I know that experience was hard for you because of the financial pinch you were in. And every time we talk about Japan, you're like, oh, I just wish I could have given you some money and all that kind of stuff. And I will just tell you, just let that go, because what that did, it forced me to focus on people, not things. And that in itself was a gift. If I had, $200 or $300 extra, I would have just been focused on things because I didn't have the extra $200 to $300. Yes, it was hard. But I focused on relationships. So it was gift after all. All right, the last point in this section, when I graduated from high school. So the whole Brenda thing and the Japan thing, that was in high school. And then at my high school graduation, Mom treated me the same way, confident in my abilities and excited for my next phase. She just was so excited for me. She didn't bawl her little eyes out and tell me how much she was going to miss me and maim me in the process. She just was so excited. And as I became a mother, I couldn't help but notice that welcoming children, that's the easy part. Releasing them, especially at high school graduation, that's taken some courage. And it has taken faith. Releasing my children has stretched me way more than I thought it would. So, how does she really do it? How does she release us well? So, when I've talked to her about this, she has just told me that her job as a mom was to grow children into adults. That would be strong enough to fly. That was her job. It was not her job to keep us in her nest. Needy and weak, she believed in us and in our abilities, and she was excited to watch us fly into the world strong and courageous. Flying out of the nest meant she had done her job well. Bonnie Crushel, you've done your job well. I thank you for everything. I love you with all my heart and soul. Happy 77th birthday, Mama. With love, Birdie number 3. Lori Lynn, I love you.